The Lives of the Caesars by Gaius Suetonius Tranquillus. This is an introduction to the text by Classics in Audiobook. Gaius Suetonius Tranquillus, conventionally known as Suetonius, was a member of the Roman equestrian order. He was an active biographer in the early 2nd century CE, whose works have become foundational for the study of the early Principate. His approximate birth date is commonly placed circa 69 CE, and he is recorded as living at least into the reign of Hadrian, with the terminus post quem for some activity often given as after 122 CE. Suetonius's social background in the equestrian order and his career in imperial administration, including posts in the imperial secretariat, the Libri Memorii and later the role of Abepistulis under Trajan and Hadrian are variously attested, make him an informed source for the lives of the preceding emperors. His role in the imperial administration afforded him access to official records, archival material, and the testimony of contemporary courtiers. This proximity to court both enriched his source base and shaped the emphases of his writing. His best-known composition, De Vita Caesarum, The Lives of the Caesars, comprises concise, arranged biographies of Julius Caesar and the first 11 emperors from Augustus through Domitian. The work is organized topically as well as chronologically, setting public acts alongside private habits in order to render a composite portrait of each ruler's character and conduct. Suetonius's method is antiquarian and documentary in orientation. He draws explicitly on earlier annalists, imperial archives, senatorial and equestrian memoirs, correspondence, legal records, and popular report. At the same time, his style is biographical rather than analytic. He frequently incorporates anecdotes, omens, physical descriptions, and reputed sayings, selecting material to illustrate moral and psychological traits that he judges causal for political behavior. Suetonius' biographies can be usefully thought of as falling into 4 groups: Caesar, the Julio-Claudians, the Civil War period, and the Flavians. First is the life of the famous Julius Caesar himself. In this biography, Suetonius discusses key events of the late Roman Republic, Caesar's Gallic command, civil war, dictatorship, and assassination, constitutes a distinct prologue to the imperial order. Next come the biographies of Augustus and the 4 Julio-Claudians. This term denotes the dynastic succession from Augustus through Nero, namely Augustus, his adopted son Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and lastly Nero. Suetonius juxtaposes public policy and private habit across these rulers to trace the consolidation and early vicissitudes of the Principate established in the aftermath of Julius Caesar's death. The Civil War period refers to the rapid sequence of claimants in 69 CE, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, a brief interval of military contestation and contested legitimacy that exposes the fragility of succession when legions, not legal norms, determine power. Lastly, the Flavians designates the Flavian house, Vespasian and his sons Titus and Domitian, whose restoration of fiscal, military, and administrative order Suetonius treats as the concluding corrective to the preceding instability. In each section, Suetonius arranges material topically: public acts, appearance, sayings, private life, so that institutional developments are interpreted through biographical detail of each individual. Modern readers, or in this case listeners, might reflect on how this is a view of the past dominated by the perspective of the so-called great man, which can easily neglect an understanding of broader social and political considerations. Scholarly reception has recognized both the evidential value and the limitations of using Suetonius as an historical source. His reports preserve particulars found nowhere else and offer a vivid account of court life, ceremonial innovation, and imperial personae. Yet many of his shorter anecdotes derive from oral tradition and contemporary gossip, and his arrangement of material, for example, separate chapters on appearance, sayings, and private life, reflects a biographical process rather than a strict chronological apparatus. Modern historians therefore treat Suetonius as an indispensable source for prosopography and cultural detail, while qualifying many of his individual anecdotes through comparison with other literary, epigraphic, numismatic, and documentary evidence. Beyond his work on the emperors, Suetonius compiled a range of other works, including De Viris Illustribus, on famous men, and various treatises on grammar, rhetoric, and antiquarian topics. Unfortunately, many of these works have either been lost or survive only in fragments. His interest in the intersection of private habit and public action, his comparative use of documentary and anecdotal sources, and his evident aim to explain the political consequences of individual character have made him central to investigations of imperial image-making, senatorial memory, and the social practices of power in early imperial Rome. Classics in Audiobook's unabridged edition of Suetonius' Lives of the Caesars presents the full sequence of 12 biographies in continuous narration. Each of the biographies is presented with a short historical introduction. The edition prioritizes a translation with fidelity to the original Latin text, delivering an unabridged spoken text intended for scholarly and general listeners while retaining the biographer's mixture of documentary detail, anecdote, and moral portraiture. The text is primarily illustrated with real Roman coins. These have been chosen as they provide valuable direct evidence of how Roman emperors presented themselves to the peoples of the empire. They thus offer a juxtaposition with the perspective of Suetonius. The audiobook uses Alexander Thomson's English translation, which first appeared in print in 1796 and subsequently formed the basis of numerous 19th and early 20th century printings. Thomson's text was reissued in popular Victorian editions, including an 1883 American printing, and was revised for later editions, notably a 1909 revision, rendering it a widely disseminated and accepted version of this fascinating ancient text.